I welcome you to this press conference hosted by Press Information Bureau (MIB) at the 56th edition of Indian International Film Festival of India. Before we proceed, let me remind that this event is being live streamed on PIB's YouTube channel. Also, we request you to switch off your devices or keep them on silent. Thank you. We have with us today the team of movie Pescador. From Team Pescador, we have Harry, the director, writer, and co-producer. Also Annie, the producer of the movie, and Isaac, the producer and cinematographer. So let me give a small synopsis about the movie. The movie is about the entanglement of lives of three persons, the three lead characters. A young scientist who is in search for a mystical fish in the dense forest of Costa Rica. After a desperate act, she falls asleep on a bus and the movie starts over. Then we are shown a fisherman, and the fisherman is awarded with a wish by a magical lobster. Seems interesting. And the wish is fatherhood. The fisherman finds the brother of the scientist, and that person is lost in the sea. So he takes care of the brother and nurses him. Also, teaches him the ways of the community. Initially, a little hesitant, but later the brother adapts to the community and he becomes part of the community. Also, the movie asks to us, what do you sacrifice for isolation? What do you risk in vulnerability and connection? Just to the dense forest of Costa Rica and the open seas. I'm sure the journey of making it was as adventurous as that. So we are excited to hear the stories today. I now request Dr. Harry to speak on his vision about the movie. Yes, please.
Oh, there we go. Hello. The movie was inspired by kind of experiences that I had from being in a coma. A few years ago, I was in a medically induced coma, and during that time in the coma, I had visions in my dreams of the ocean. And I kind of wanted to explore something about the ocean, something about the sea, and kind of explore why I may have been drawn to the sea during my time in the coma. And also kind of the feelings of isolation that you feel when you're recovering from a very serious medical incident. I mean, both of the two American characters in the film are experiencing very extreme isolation. They're both kind of in a country they're not familiar with. And so yeah, that's it's a very personal film in that regard. It's kind of like it's about how it can be very difficult to connect with other people, and especially in times of crisis. And yeah, and in terms of making the movie, you brought up the movie was shot on the ocean and in the jungle. It's every single filmmaker in history has said, don't shoot on boats, and I didn't listen, and I did it anyway. And now I understand why every single filmmaker says don't shoot on boats. It's difficult to shoot on boats, and we spend a lot of time on the boats. But I'm glad we did it because, you know, I think the film has some very beautiful images in it, and I think it gives it authenticity. We shot on actual fishermen's boats in Costa Rica, and the gentleman who plays the fisherman in the film is an actual fisherman that we met in Costa Rica and who had never acted before and was willing to take a chance on us.
You can understand the closeness you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was great to hear that. Now from producer, like and you share the journey with his life also. So, your insights.
Absolutely. So yes, I do. I share the journey of his life because we are also married. What I really want to say about this film, I mean, there's so much I want to say. I love this film. I love the people who made this film. I think it's extraordinary. And I want to emphasize what an international collaboration this was. Our crew was half people from the US and half people from Costa Rica and from Latin America in general, but mostly Costa Rica, including our producer, Jimena Cortez Ramirez, who I wish could be here with us as well. It was really an international collaboration. You know, we all lived together, we all worked together. We had 2 languages going at all times. And we made extraordinary friends in Costa Rica, and we really embedded pretty deeply in the incredible fishing village of Tarcolis. And it was just, you know, the most unique experience of my life.
Behind these beautiful visuals, we have the cinematographer with us. So, few words on your experience.
Well, for one, thank you all very much for having us. This is such an incredible honor being here, really. In regards to the visuals behind the film, Harry and I collaborated, I think, very much from a story perspective in regards to trying to communicate a lot of the feelings that are in the script. And for that reason, and I hope all of you have the opportunity to see the film, there are 2 different visual approaches in the film for both characters. And I think it's very telling. You can feel that very significantly in the film, and I think that was a huge part of the creative approach towards it.
And you had a real story, medical induced coma, and the real story, that's the dreams of worship. So how easy or difficult was it to balance the 2 into a narrative, into the script?
How difficult was it to balance the kind of the story of the dreams and the kind of the reality of what the movie is? I mean, I think that it always has to be about the characters. So I think that like the characters lead the way when it comes to balancing those kinds of things. I think that like, you know, I think also like inspiration I think is like a building block in a way. So like, you know, when I say the film was inspired by dreams I had during a coma, it then kind of, it doesn't all come into place at once, you know, so it like builds on itself kind of slowly as, you know, you write the script. And then when you have a certain idea in mind, it kind of like, it locks into place, and then you can't move too far away from kind of like, well, these are who the characters are, so these are the things that they would be doing. So they guide you in a way. And it just becomes almost like kind of practical. Like, well, what would they be doing next? Well, they'd be doing next because this is who that person is. And I think if you're honest with yourself about who the characters are, it leads you in a way. And it's intuitive almost. It's hard to like explain in a way. I think it's intuitive in that like I just know who these people are, so they have to be doing this, and then they have to be doing that, and they have to be doing that. And I think if you don't know who the characters are, and if you're kind of basing it off like, well, I'd like them to be doing that, then you're going in the wrong direction. They have to tell you what they're doing and how that balance works.
Good morning to the team of this film. What is the reason to select the Costa Rica as a country to shoot? It was a co-production between the US and Costa Rica. And you said these are all your memories under coma here. How big the viability commercial angle of this film will go? Does it recover your money?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the second question.
How commercial viability of this film? How you may recover your money as a director, as a producer?
You can.
I think there's a very real reality where this is an art house avant-garde film. This exists within an experimental world, and there is an audience for this. These audiences do exist, but I think, you know, for direct commercial viability, it probably doesn't represent something that is going to be at the top of the list. And in regards to recouping our money, we are still very open to finding an active distributor and sales agent. So maybe that's an indicator.
Why Costa Rica?
Costa Rica started as a kind of I was really, I mean, in addition to images of the ocean, I was really drawn to images of the jungle, and kind of we were like thinking about different countries in Latin and Central America that we could set the film in. But Costa Rica is really interesting because it's a country that's kind of like very, very quickly gentrifying. And so I think that like in certain areas of the country, you know, there are communities that are being very rapidly displaced. You know, when we were in Costa Rica, I was very, I'm trying to find the right word, not alarmed, but it was very surprising to see just how intense the gentrification was in certain areas of the country. And I think that that kind of like reflects what the themes of the film are, and that these are two Americans who are kind of like entering spaces that don't really belong to them and are kind of like not being very thoughtful about their interactions in those spaces. And I think that that's very reflective of a lot of the experiences that I've seen and heard from Costa Ricans, where people kind of come into communities from other countries, buy a property, and you know, kind of kick locals out of their homes. And I think that even though the movie isn't like explicitly about gentrification, I think there are underlying themes in the film about that. And so, and I think that Costa Rica kind of represents this kind of almost encroachment of capital in a way that a lot of other countries in Central America haven't felt quite as intensely as Costa Rica. So I think that I think it's very indicative of what